we find ourselves in really difficult times. And so sometimes what you expect is that the people who are the representatives of the people will support government's agenda in ensuring that we able to come out of these challenges that we are facing as a people. The politics would always be there. We can always come back to do the politics. It was interesting that you said that today being the 7th of December, we're 2 years away from another election. And what it means is that, yes, we'll get to a point where we would have to go to the people of this country to account for our stewardship. And of course, the opposition would have to go and give an indication of why they should also be given an opportunity. I think we will come to that point. But at this point, we feel that we are at the stage where all the various parties and the stakeholders should come together so we'll be able to come out of this particular challenge that we are facing. Because once it gets to a certain point, it doesn't really matter who is in government. I mean, you have the Ghanaian people actually going through all these difficulties regardless of who is in power. And I think that is a good thing that they have done going forward. So you take a careful look at the budget itself, and it admits that Ghana is facing some challenges. It put together the fiscal policy framework that we want to undertake, our revenue targets, and of course, it also took into account the fact that we are talking to the IMF in terms of negotiating for some kind of, if you like, support. And so these are the key elements within which we are having this conversation about the budget. Then you also talk about even one of the most topical issues today, which is the debt sustainability analysis that has been done. That suggests that we have to do certain things to be able to save the economy and take it back onto a particular trajectory so that we will develop as a country. You know, I took my time to read about some of these things, and it's very clear that when it comes to even debt sustainability, low-income countries have a certain disadvantage, you know, because the same basis for, let's say, your debt to GDP and why, I mean, it puts you in distress or it makes you vulnerable, does not apply to high-income countries. And these are the same entities that, by virtue of the fact that we subscribe to some of these agencies, will give you all these ratings and all of those things. And my, orientation all the time is that regardless of what the issues are, I think that this presents us an opportunity to think outside of the box. I'm happy that I'm here with Sam. I think that even this whole conversation about digitalization and digital economies and all of those, it's about time that we actually mainstream these conversations. You know why? Because the thing is that, without even repeating myself, the biggest companies in the world, when I was in business school, do not exist anymore. Right? Countries have had to evolve on the basis of innovation and technology and all of those things. So we find ourselves in a situation where we are struggling. So it means that all the further investments that we make into this economy should be such that it actually is fit for purpose. It's actually things that we are doing that will take the economy back onto a certain trajectory. And we are open to that conversation. Issues around sustainability and green issues and all that. Like just a couple of weeks ago, the whole world was actually in Egypt for this COP27 and all of this. And you see, with all the issues that we are facing as a country and even the global challenges that we are facing, what this does is that it presents an opportunity for us to think outside of the box, to look at ways of actually, this is something that we said time and a number, restructuring the very fundamentals of our economy so that we don't become so vulnerable to the exigencies of a global supply chain issue or your COVID challenge or your issues to do with Russia, Ukraine, and all of those things. You know, so yes, we are in dire straits. Things are not as people would expect, but I believe strongly that as a people, we have enough resilience. I mean, anybody that grew up around the 70s and the 80s will tell you that our parents used to talk about 1983 and all of the things that has happened. But even in recent times, there are a lot of examples. In 2008, there was a global recession. I mean, some of us even had to have all sorts of challenges because of that. And I mean, the whole world, as we speak, is on the verge of a recession. But what it does, what it presents, is that it presents another opportunity. I mean, you had people who were affected by the subprime market, and they lost their properties and revenues within a day, and all of those things, right? So, in the absence of other solutions, for example, I've heard people say, oh, why would government do all of these things? But the mere essence, the very essence of government is to be able to prefer solutions when challenges arise, right? And that's not to say that people will not disagree with that. You understand? So I've read commentary from the Ghana Medical Association, from TUC, from other, even from the opposition and all of those things. But that's the whole essence of democracy. And that if people disagree and people feel that that position that has been taken is untenable, there are ways to actually deal with it. For example, government had to go to the Attorney General, and that's some of the things that we have to commend as a country, to the Attorney General to seek his opinion on the debt exchange program. You understand what I'm saying? So that it doesn't become arbitrary. And the Attorney General also preferred an opinion, so that we'll be able to do that within a certain legal framework. Even after all of these things, you hear people saying that, well, maybe not enough consultations have been done, or further consultations should be done and everything. I feel that we still have an opportunity to address some of these issues. Now, even in the context of why we are here, and I think that is always the case, people would say, oh, why do you find yourself in that particular situation? And then when you start saying some of the things that I'm about to say, they say, oh, don't say it. Prior to 2019, from 2017, 2018, 2019, Ghana was the fastest growing economy in the world. We're growing at a rate of 7.3% per annum on average. You understand what I'm saying? Some of the social intervention programs that were put in place were gaining grounds. We've done all of these things. Then all of a sudden, because of the challenges with COVID and the attendant challenges that we faced, then we started having issues. But even in the midst of all that, there was still a certain commitment to ensure that all public sector workers were paid, to ensure that the free SHS was going to be a flagship program to support young people in this country. Because this is the basis for development. If you don't have a proper human capital, how do you develop as a country? And some of these investments are not things that you can actually realize in real time. It takes a while for that to actually impact the growth of your economy and all of those things. The conversations are there. People would have all sorts of views and opinions about these things. But that's the whole essence of governance as well, that you take some decisions. Within a democratic dispensation, people have the right to disagree and all that. But I believe that government has also been very forthright with the Ghanaian people to admit that we are facing issues, we are facing challenges. And sometimes even when people want to quote government, it's like, oh, you said you're never going to go to the IMF and all of those things. But circumstances change, things change. I mean, the exigencies require you to do that, right? And of course, I mean, hindsight is it's early morning TV, so I can't say what I'm supposed to say. Hindsight is such a beautiful thing. Any kind of analysis that is hinged on hindsight is beautiful. But the truth of the matter is that nobody holds a crystal ball. So you make these decisions as you go along. I believe that with the support of the minority, with the support of the Ghanaian people and the various stakeholders, we will start realizing some gains within the various sectors of the economy, and we will bounce back as a people. I mean, the resilience for me is there. But of course, I mean, it's very clear that we are facing challenges. And what government has done, even when it comes to the financial sector, after the sort of analysis that have been done, is to ensure that you don't have a situation where government is actually defaulting, right? Or, I mean, it's not able to deal with his responsibilities, right? And so this is the most like a transparent, open, honest way of dealing with the issues. Again, it's very clear that it is not mandatory, it's voluntary. But of course, then the conversation also is that we would expect that the government itself, with some of the commitments made, for example, he's saying that treasury bills are exempt, which is a good thing. Bonds that are going to accrue in 2 years are not part of it, right? You have the institutional bondholders will be given some liquidity support to deal with some of the issues where maybe individuals will be making demands of their investments and all of those things. So these are things that have been put in place to try and at least mitigate some of the issues as we go forward. I know that in the coming days there is going to be a lot of conversation around the position that's been taken by the GMA and the TUC and all that. And that presents us also with other opportunities to look at other examples of what pertains elsewhere. In some parts of the world, they have what they call convertible bonds, right? So for example, if you have like a state entity that has IGF and is generating enough income, you can convert some of these bonds into stock, for example, so that it would yield dividends as you go along. So there are so many other things that we can look at. Whilst we're having this conversation, I think that there's also going to be a conversation around productivity. My bread. My bread I can be right. Productivity and all of those things, right? And so I feel that we are in a good place. It's about time that we all put our hands to the wheel to ensure that we come out of these challenges.
Just because, or just when he said, well, you have landed.
No, right? Because I mean, he's trying to distract me. He doesn't like what I'm saying because he thought I was going to go on a certain tangent, but that's not my style.
But you're happy that at least they have supported the approval of the budget.
Of course, yes. I mean, sometimes you have to commend.
Speed.
You have to commend them. There's a funny thing. I think that one of the papers actually, reported that you approved of the budget joyfully, and some people were unhappy about it. But you see, I think that it's also a certain aspect of our democracy that we do not commend ourselves for. This is a country that has been able to...
You're asking to take off again.
No, I'm coming to you.
This is a country that has been able to deal with some of its major constitutional issues using the judicial system. And so we should be proud of ourselves.
Right.